TalkTainmentRadio.com.
We give you a reason to come.
The world's greatest radio.
We give you a reason to stay.
Radio the way it should be heard.
You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, 3MR Production, its ownership, management, or staff.
We've got the power.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I'm Brother Kahari, sitting in every week with Mr. Fuller, Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and you can get involved by dialing 1-877-932-9766. That's 1-877-932-9766. Let me first of all say good morning to Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, how are you, sir?
I'm still learning.
Mr. Fuller, there's a lot to talk about, and I guess the Supreme Court decision came out yesterday. Many people felt it gutted some of the major provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1995, where at one time you used to pay poll taxes, and there was a number of things that would keep you from voting. Now they're talking about setting up districts and a host of other things that would. It was designed for many years before they could set up a plan at the state level. They had to run it by the Justice Department to see if it did not discriminate. And now that provision, which was very, very important, has been wiped out, essentially. They're saying what I get is that the conditions of racism as they were then are not the conditions as they are now. Therefore, you don't need the same construct in place. You don't need the same remedies in place, because racism either has changed or it does not exist. That's what the message is, that you are no longer in that same spot. You got more black folk in Congress than you ever had. You got more black mayors. You got more black state senators, House of Representatives, etc. More. Not an equitable percentage, but more. And so you don't need these kind of remedies in place anymore, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I'm sure you've had a chance to either look at it or think about it. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, my thoughts on it so far is what's the effect going to be? In other words, I start with the question, because everything is about questions and answers. So what is the effect going to be? And so they are supposed to be remedying something by doing this. This is supposed to be an improvement. So we'll just see what the improvement is, or have them explain, whoever made the changes, explain what the improvement is supposed to be, and then measure that improvement. By improvement, meaning you have solved a problem. And depends on who the problem, who was making the problem and what the problem was originally in the first place. Now, if the problem is racism, have you solved the problem of racism? That would be the question. As far as political voting is concerned, the sixth area of activity, politics, and that involves voting. So have you solved the problem of racism in the voting process? That would be the question. Have you made an adjustment that's going to be a solution to the problem when it comes to racism in the area of politics? There's lots of ways to frame that question, but that's the basic question, regardless of how you frame it. So they went through some changes. Did the changes solve the problem of racism in politics? That would be the basic question, I would think. regardless of what the changes are. Do you still have racism in politics, and how did this have an impact on eliminating that racism?
Let's take a listen to some of the comments real quick, Mr. Fuller, on some reaction to this Supreme Court ruling on Tuesday that struck down a key part of the Voting Rights Act, which guards against racial discrimination in U.S. states with a segregationist past. Let's take a listen.
Today, the court upheld the constitutionality of the most important provision of the Voting Rights Act, but they have challenged us yet again to go back to Congress to demonstrate once again that the evidence is clear and irrefutable that voting discrimination occurs today in the United States.
Nothing is more important than ensuring that every single voter is free from racial discrimination and ethnic discrimination in the exercise of their vote. Today's decision severely undermines the legal protections that have been vital for more than almost 5 decades of protecting voters of all nationalities.
Okay, so you get some of the reaction. To me, Mr. Fuller, to me, the response to this, particularly as it comes amongst black people, so far it seems to be very weak, very, well, no big deal. Even if you listen to the comments, they were like very weak. There weren't any strong comments addressing this issue as something that we ought to be paying close attention to. What was your response to what you heard, Mr. Fuller?
Well, they were making their assessment, and so each individual black person has to make an assessment of what his or her environment is about and what their perspectives are on where the racial perspectives are at this particular time. And they give their own individual perspectives because it comes down to what the individuals think about it. The people who have been victims and are victims of racism. And lots of people maybe simply do not understand what's going on. Probably didn't understand in the beginning. Didn't know very much about it or what the particulars are, because there's a lot of legalese, you might say, involved in the language of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the average person would probably be asking, what impact is this going to have when I go to the polls? I mean, how is my vote going to be counted, if at all? And what is going to be the procedure? What is going to be different from the last time that I voted? So I think these will be the basic questions. What will be the differences? And will the differences be an improvement over what I had before? Now, that would be the question that I would ask. Because when you're making a change of any kind, when you're changing clothes, the question is, did you make an improvement? Everything is about improvement. I mean, Marcus Garvey had a whole association with that name, where the name in the association was improvement. The NAACP has a word in their title, advancement. So it comes down to advancement, improvement, and what do those words mean? So basically, you just simply ask, okay, you said this, you said that, you said the other. Is this going to improve my position? Is this going to improve my everyday existence on this planet? Or is it going to be an act that is going to be detrimental to me? That's the bottom line. In any moves that anybody makes anywhere on the planet, whether it's in voting or anything else, did you do something that's an improvement for me?
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't, what's your motive? And
Right.
Are you a friend or an enemy?
Now, Mr. Fuller, tomorrow or today is another ruling that's being talked about on some radio stations across the country. and that's this ruling on so-called on a definition of marriage. Mr. Fuller, let me get your thoughts, because I think marriage is one of the words in the Word Guide. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
What's your definition of marriage? And does it include people of the same group, people who are the same gender, marrying each other? First of all, what is your definition of it? And secondly, does it include people who are the same gender marrying each other? Mr. Fuller.
No, not by the definition, because in compensatory definition, counter-racist definition, which I have in the Word Guide, a marriage is a mutual and harmonious relationship between male and female.
Okay.
That's a very broad definition, but it's very specific.
Male and female.
To male with female. Male with female.
So that automatically rules out
because
the second question.
Because we're go ahead.
No, I said that definition automatically rules out the second question, because you said it's between male and female. And
male with female.
Male with
right.
female, and that's it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So now there's a new push that's coming about with this, Mr. Fuller, and they're calling something a gender neutral social order. And I think you've talked about it. One of the key aspects that I've been reading about recently is this gender neutral bathrooms. Now, that's where it really hits the rubber of the road, is when you talk about bathroom facilities. Now, what they're pushing is that there should be no men, no women on the bathroom doors, that anybody at any time should be able to go in and use the bathroom regardless of who's in there. If a female is in there, a male should be able to go in and use the bathroom. If a female is in there, if a male's in there, female, breaking down all of the notion of what's male and what's female. And it looks like that this whole concept of male and female is under an extreme attack. Am I incorrect or correct on this, Mr. Fuller?
It sure looks that way, and I predicted that would happen. Sometimes, people, as far back as the late 1960s and early 1970s, when I started talking about it in depth, I said what you have going on here is the degenderization of people, and that is aimed ultimately at weakening the non-white people of the planet. I still say that. This whole thing ultimately is aimed at the non-white populations, the people classified as non-white, who populate this planet. This is a part of the racist conspiracy, the whole kit and caboodle, all these changes that are being made in the genders. We're being degenderized. You're causing confusion. That's what they are doing. And I say the usual suspects, the white supremacists, are behind it. Now, they are starting off, saying that it applies to everybody and all like that. But the question is, who's going to be harmed the most ultimately by these changes? Is there going to be any harm? Now, a lot of people say, there's no harm. This is all innocent. In fact, it's an improvement. That word again. This is an improvement over what we have. This is a great improvement. This is a vast improvement. This is the way it should have been right from the beginning. That's what a lot of people are saying. But I'm saying, no, I don't believe that. And I believe it's a racist motive behind it all. Behind all of it. Ultimately, it's supposed to have a harmful impact on the non-white populations of this planet. And I saw symptoms of it as far back as the late 1960s, and I'm totally convinced of it now. And they can shock me by showing otherwise later on in the future, if I'm still around, maybe 50 years down the road, it will surface. It was one of the greatest ideas ever thought of in the progress of the so-called human population of this particular planet. Somebody might say, oh, all the naysayers have been proven incorrect. And this has been one of the greatest things that ever happened, particularly for the black people of this planet. I mean, this degenderization, in other words, degenderize, no genders, no such thing as male and female. It's all just the same, just a mismatch, just a great big pot of stew, all mixed up any kind of way. You know, like you just said, males go into the females, the transgenders. I think there's some cases before courts right now where the transgenders are saying, hey, we should be able to use in the airport any of the facilities as far as bathrooms are concerned, because we, as transgender, are, you know, we're flexible. And, you know, it depends on what our state of mind is. And cross-dressers, too, I guess, would be included in that later on. That would be an added category. I have said that actually you can have up to around 175 categories. I thought of about 175 categories of genders myself, just like they've done with the racial thing, say in places like Brazil and whatnot. I mean, where you have, you know, how many racial categories? Some people say as many as 75.
I think it's 140 something.
140 something. Okay, now what you have there is confusion. I mean, if you're really going to enact and say that all of these are real viable categories, even in Brazil, of racial categories, and which means what? I mean, that's the question. What will that mean? That when one person walks in a certain door, I mean, that person's supposed to be treated this way on account of their special privileges or special non-privileges. I mean, and you do the same thing with the categories of the genders, and then you have about 200 or 300 different types of genders. Of course, you can very easily do that. You can balloon this thing. You already have, 5 basic ones now that are already recognized. Well, if you got 5, what about 10? And I say, since the water's already over the dike, you might say, it's already over the dam on this gender thing, you can't put that toothpaste back in the bottle. At this point, I don't think, in my own opinion. So I just say add one, and that's called a counter-racist gender. That's a compensatory move that I'm suggesting.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, well, you have a counter-racist sexuality. In other words, your mind is supposed to be attached to your sexuality, because that's what everybody's saying. It's all in the mind. Sexuality is not just in the body, it's also in the mind. So if my mind tells me that I should have interactions in my sexuality based on my counter-racist, you know, tendencies, being against racism, which is a natural instinct for a victim of racism, then I can ask for special recognition of being a counter-racist, a bona fide counter-racist sexual. In other words, and that would qualify me, which is what I'm saying. This is what I'm pushing now. That would qualify me to say that my sexuality, if it's counter-racist, that's a category that's different. And I have counter-racist sexuality. And that counter-racist sexuality, I will make the rules, just like all the other genders now are making their rules, and ask that they be enforced and be recognized. And, you know, when I come around and say that I'm a counter-racist, I have my own sexuality, in other words, non-white male with non-white female, because ultimately we want to be universal male with female. We have an ultimate goal that's different from the ultimate goal probably of a whole bunch of other people, particularly the racists who have their goals. So you have a counter-racist sexuality. You have a racist sexuality and a counter-racist sexuality. Why not? Come one, come all. Since you're going this way, all this fractionalization and whatnot, and all these different categories of the races, all these different categories of the genders, well, we need a counter-racist gender, too. People who, they are male with female, and that is our choice. That's the one that I'm recommending. male with female, but with a counter-racist mentality. And it'll be non-white male with non-white female. That's a separate category altogether who have counter-racist mentality.
Hold it right there, Mr. Fuller. Wow. You're going to get more of this on the show today, Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. Stay right there.
The hardest thing to do at times is to make changes in your routine. Don't let that hold you back.
Oh, wait a minute. They told us we had it all sorted. Well, yeah, I guess in a way we are running out of oil.
Your opportunity is now to get up-to-the-minute information, great entertainment, and stimulating talk programs on your computer. Just log on to TalkTainmentRadio.com, click Listen Live to hear a program. TalkTainmentRadio.com can also be heard on your cell phone. Talktainment Radio. We go where you go.
Look out, automobiles. Here we come. Now that's radio. The world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard.
Chiropractic care is more than just making the pain disappear. It's about learning, understanding, and taking care of your body to improve your quality of life. Our Columbus, Ohio practice is equipped with modern chiropractic equipment and technology. Dr. Dee Reed, Divine Chiropractic and Wellness Center, located at 67 Parsons Avenue, Columbus, Ohio 43205, 614-222-0019. DivineChiropractic.com. Dr. Dee Reed, 614-222-0019.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-371-5898, 800-371-5898.
More than 2 years ago, the people of BP made a commitment to the Gulf, and every day since, we've worked hard to keep it. Today, the beaches and Gulf are open for everyone to enjoy. We've shared what we've learned so we can all produce energy more safely. BP's also committed to America. We support nearly 250,000 jobs and invest more here than anywhere else. We're working to fuel America for generations to come. Our commitment has never been stronger.
Years ago, identical twins were separated at birth. Chris Paul was destined for life with basketball. Cliff Paul was destined to become a State Farm agent. They shared one invaluable trait. They were both born to assist. Find an agent born to get you to a better state.
T-Mobile presents The Simple Choice.
With T-Mobile, I can walk out with the new Samsung Galaxy S4 for way less than at AT&T.
We have a big family.
T-Mobile.
Awesome. Well, now we'll all have the coolest phones in school. It almost makes up for the social stigma of living in a shoe. You live in a shoe.
Choose to spend less upfront at activation for your new Samsung Galaxy S4 at T-Mobile.
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann. No matter what stadium I broadcast from, I'd always have to find the closest bathroom, just in case I had that sudden urge to go. My prostate was giving me fits, but then I heard about Super Beta Prostate's nationwide million-bottle giveaway, and I got a free bottle. What a difference it made. I don't have to go as often, and I don't have to get up at night as much. Now I wake up refreshed and ready to tackle anything. What's so special about Super Beta Prostate is that it's the most widely used supplement supporting a healthy prostate. Super Beta Prostate has sold over 5 million bottles, and it also has a trusted 10-year history, and it's all natural. There's no reason to accept the issues that come with an aging prostate. So get Super Beta Prostate today.
Call right now when you learn how to get a free bottle of Super Beta Prostate. Pay only shipping and handling. Call 1-800-487-1634. That's 1-800-487-1634. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call 1-800-487-1634. That's 1-800-487-1634.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
This is the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com. You can join us by calling 1-877-932-9766, 1-877-932-9766. We're here again tonight at 10 o'clock. This is a rebroadcast of today's show at 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. tonight, Eastern Standard Time. So join us there. You can hear Mr. Fuller as we're discussing two vital Supreme Court rulings that are coming down. And, of course, in the third segment, Mr. Fuller will reach into his question bag, and then he will respond to questions that people have given him throughout the week. Mr. Fuller, this marriage thing is going to cause quite a stir. It's going to really create, I believe, massive confusion. And I think you're correct, because it's what's behind it that's even more, in my opinion, significant than the actual situation itself, because what it opens the door to is a complete redefinition of everything that has existed for the past 10,000 years. You're turning humanity as we know it completely upside down, and only the smartest and the best organized will be able to stand and have some sense of what it is they're supposed to be doing. This is going to create massive confusion, I think, if it has full effect. Let me get your thoughts on it, Mr. Fuller. And I want you to go back and redefine this degenderization and give me examples of what you mean. And one of the things we had pointed out here was this move now to create gender-neutral bathrooms. That's one step in that direction. Next thing comes dressing rooms. Next thing comes all kind of post-sexuals. I mean, what we are seeing and what we are beginning to realize is they're talking about, in my opinion, the destruction of humanity as we know it. In particular, either the destruction or massive confusion or a massive ineffectiveness. One of the two or all three combined. Let me get Mr. Fuller's thoughts. Mr. Fuller, let's go back to this definition of genderization. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Fuller.
Well, that's a term that I hadn't heard the term. I made up the term.
Right.
I hadn't heard anybody use that term, but that's what it looks like to me. Degenderize. In other words, you have something called gender, according to most popular dictionaries, which consists of male and female. So you just degenderize. You just simply say, don't pay any attention to this thing about male and female. That's just a myth. I mean, they're making that up. Somebody made that up. There's no real such thing as, these are just words, male and female. What is that supposed to mean? I mean, who cares whether you're a male or a female? I mean, who's supposed to care? And then how are you supposed to act differently, dress differently, speak differently? Do you have something different going on there? Not really. It's just all in the mind. That's what the degenderizers are basically saying. And this is causing, in my opinion, great confusion, because I do believe that there is such a thing, such people, you might say, as male and female. I believe that you have this among animals, male and female. Now, I understand in the scientific field, when you talk about the amoeba, and some people say the paramecium, these are organisms that reproduce themselves, etc. In other words, they are non-sexual, you might say, the amoeba. And so in that regard, that apparently, if my information is correct, is true. It's not true when it comes to people. You're either male or female, or you have what they call hermaphrodite, which usually is looked upon as something unusual.
Yeah, it's rare.
Something that's not really natural.
Right.
It is deviated from that which is natural. Then you get into the word of what is natural. Well, there are some people who are born with 6 fingers. So you can say that that's natural because that's the way they were born. And I know of some people who actually had 6 fingers on one hand. And the number 6 finger was usually just a little stub that was kind of just hanging there, and usually the doctors amputated that. Now, it could be that maybe it shouldn't be amputated. Maybe everybody should actually have 6 fingers. I don't believe so. It seems that 5 at the end of the arm seem to work pretty well on what they call the hand. You have the arm, then the hand, and then you have fingers attached to the hand. And functionally, that has served most purposes so far. But it could be that maybe people could get into the genetic field and fix it so that all of the future people of the world would have maybe 8 fingers or 12 fingers on each hand. And maybe that would prove to be more efficient. And maybe in the phallic origins, probably have 4 penises. That might be something that they could probably generate in a laboratory and whatnot. And that would be a whole new category and whatnot. You'd have to make laws and whatnot that would apply to that. Which ones are valid? I mean, give names to them, etc. Or a lady have 6 vaginas. I mean, but that's not the case as it is in physicality right now. I mean, you basically have male with female, and most of the laws and everything have been made to accommodate that. But now we've gotten into the psychiatric field now, because these were some of the people who pioneered it, people who say that they're psychologists or psychiatrists, and they're specialists in the mind, and they say, well, mind over matter, and therefore, even though you may have phallic equipment, or you may have a vagina, your mind can tell you that, take you to another level, where you can disregard that. And you can take your mind and say that, well, even though you were born a male, you don't necessarily have to remain a male. In fact, you can just act on what your mind says that you are at the moment. And therefore, this thing about the ladies' restroom, actually a male could just walk right in there and say, well, my mind told me that I was a female about 15 minutes ago. So I came in here and I'm taking a look at my sisters, because I am now one of them.
No.
If anybody tries to arrest me, I'm going to sue them for everything they got. And that person could probably make a case.
He probably could.
Particularly with the people who say, oh, yes, whether you're male or female, it's just not a physical thing.
It's all in your mind.
It's all in the mind. And so this is a part of our movement. You are what you say that you are at any given moment. And if we believe in freedom, if we believe in the civil rights movement, if we believe in the spirit of Martin Luther King and Gandhi and all of the people who fought for freedom, you should go along with this. And even further, you should be persecuted if you don't. Now, I think that's where we're headed, because all of the symptoms are there.
Well, it does have that feeling. I mean, when you see some of this, because when you start messing with that area of sex, Mr. Fuller, that's an explosive area. I mean, race and sex always compete to see which one is the most explosive. But
absolutely, when you
sex,
combine
man,
them, you got real dynamite.
Woo, that's scary.
Anything racial and sexual, when you combine it, you got total atomic bomb material going on there. And that's what this is, particularly this degenderization program as it applies to non-white people.
That's where
Now,
I was
position
going
that I
next.
take,
Yeah, go ahead.
yes, the position that I take on it, if the white people of the world, particularly the white supremacists who make the decisions for non-white people, my request of them, the white supremacists who are my bosses, I tell them, just leave us out of it until we see how this thing plays out. If you're going to degenderize everything, just run it for about 100 years and see how it works out among yourselves. Mm-hmm. And if it has merit, then we can sign on. But leave us out of this degenderization program, because we don't know what this is about for the time being, until it proves to be the best thing ever thought up. Because I don't think it is. I could be in error, but I don't think it is. I don't think this endless degenderization is going to be of great benefit to the non-white populations of this planet. I have no reason to believe that. I think we should be headed in the opposite direction of cementing the relationship between male and female, and we can go it alone, all non-white peoples, and evolving into the ultimate, which would be universal man and universal woman, which would be people who can function in the best of all environments by producing those environments in all 9 areas of activity and having a mutual and harmonious relationship 24/7 in everything, and everybody being happy doing constructive things. And I gave a title to the people who would ultimately get there, because we don't have any of these people yet, nowhere on the planet that I know of. Universal man and universal woman in perfect harmony with each other and in perfect harmony with everything that is constructive in the known universe. I think this is the way it should have been in the beginning, and I think that's the direction we should be heading forward now. And I have mentioned this in my books, the textbooks for victims of white supremacy, both the Word Guide and the Basic Book, and these can be obtained by putting into the computer the words producejustice.com. And I explain a lot of these views in these books.
Okay. As we go forward, let me also remind you that you can pick up Mr. Fuller's works at producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. And then you just go in and follow the prompts as they lead you to how to get your 2 books. Mr. Fuller, what's the name of your 2 works?
Well, it's a long title, a United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept, but then there's a subtitle that applies to both books, Textbook Workbook for Thought, Speech, and or Action for Victims of White Supremacy.
All right.
It applies to non-white people,
Now, there's a third item that hit the news that's kind of playing underneath all of that, and that's, of course, the George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin case. Mr. Fuller, any thoughts on any new thoughts, because we've discussed it before, any new thoughts that you might have on how this situation might play out and what the meanings are?
Or it might play out that Mr. Zimmerman may be convicted on something. I don't know what it would be. Because that's highly controversial all during the trial and whatnot. But the charges are second-degree murder, as far as I know. Sometimes I get my facts mixed up, but I think the charges are second-degree murder. That may play out, and he may get charged and convicted of that, and then maybe not on a technicality, because I think there's a huge technicality there about the stand your ground law.
Stand your ground law in Florida.
Yes, I think that's where the problem has been in the beginning, and I think that's going to be the problem when it all plays out, even if there's a retrial or something of that nature, or appeals, or a number of appeals. I don't know, but I think the controversy will all come around these stand your ground laws and how they are worded and all of the details of that. And I think ultimately that will be determined what will happen as an outcome of this particular case. In the meantime, though, law enforcement shootings that relate to black people, particularly in the Northwestern Hemisphere, any type of shooting that involves what we call law enforcement, police action, or police brutality, or something like that, that's going to continue. That goes with the system of white supremacy. No matter how many protests that you have, every now and then you're going to have what you call a shooting by a law enforcement officer of a non-white person, and we'll go through the whole thing of the protests and the picket signs and all like that, and that these things have to stop. It's too much police brutality. That's what they call it, police brutality. You can go back to old newspaper clippings going back to the 1910 maybe, and it's the same thing over and over and over again throughout the year. Every year you have so many of these incidents that happen. And under the system of white supremacy, that's an absolute. That's going to continue, no matter how many protests you have. I mean, because it kind of goes with the territory. There are going to be, a certain quota of non-white people who are going to get gunned down under the banner of police incident. Someone pulled over on the highway and an altercation ensues, and maybe a chase, and then the controversy that comes, and the lawyers coming forth, and everybody gets a microphone, and everybody talks about it and whatnot.
Repeats itself endlessly.
Yes, right. And then 3 weeks later, the same thing happens over on the other side of town, and 2 weeks later, in another city, the same scenario. And that just goes on and on and on. But that goes with the territory of the system of white supremacy.
It does.
That's a given.
All right, next up, Mr. Fuller is going to talk about some letters, some concepts, some emails, some questions that have been asked him. Be prepared, because he always is. Stay right there. More to come on the compensatory concept, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
Chiropractic care is more than just making the pain disappear. It's about learning, understanding, and taking care of your body to improve your quality of life. Our Columbus, Ohio practice is equipped with modern chiropractic equipment and technology. Dr. Dee Reed, Divine Chiropractic and Wellness Center, located at 67 Parsons Avenue, Columbus, Ohio 43205, 614-222-0019. DivineChiropractic.com. Dr. Dee Reed, 614-222-0019.
The United Independent Compensatory Code System concept by Neely Fuller is considered as one of the substantial and basic books for understanding and effectively countering racism. Neely Fuller will turn upside down everything you've heard and everything you think you know about racism and how it works. Call area code 202-484-5461. 202-484-5461.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? Yeah. They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-371-5898, 800-371-5898.
More than 2 years ago, the people of BP made a commitment to the Gulf, and every day since, we've worked hard to keep it. Today, the beaches and Gulf are open for everyone to enjoy. We've shared what we've learned so we can all produce energy more safely. BP's also committed to America. We support nearly 250,000 jobs and invest more here than anywhere else. We're working to fuel America for generations to come. Our commitment has never been stronger.
Years ago, identical twins were separated at birth. Chris Paul was destined for life of basketball. Cliff Paul was destined to become a State Farm agent. They shared one invaluable trait. They were both born to assist. Find an agent born to get you to a better state.
T-Mobile presents the simple choice.
With T-Mobile, I can walk out with the new Samsung Galaxy S4 for way less than at AT&T. We have a big family. T-Mobile.
Awesome. Well, now we'll all have the coolest phones in school. It almost makes up for the social stigma of living in a shoe. You live in a shoe.
Choose to spend less upfront at activation for your new Samsung Galaxy S4 at T-Mobile.
Hi, I'm Joe Theismann. No matter what stadium I broadcast from, I'd always have to find the closest bathroom, just in case I had that sudden urge to go. My prostate was giving me fits. But then I heard about Super Beta Prostate's nationwide million-bottle giveaway, and I got a free bottle. What a difference it made. I don't have to go as often, and I don't have to get up at night as much. Now I wake up refreshed and ready to tackle anything. What's so special about Super Beta Prostate is that it's the most widely used supplement supporting a healthy prostate. Super Beta Prostate has sold over 5 million bottles, and it also has a trusted 10-year history, and it's all natural. There's no reason to accept the issues that come with an aging prostate. So get Super Beta Prostate today.
Call right now and you'll learn how to get a free bottle of Super Beta Prostate. Pay only shipping and handling. Call 1-800-487-1634. That's 1-800-487-1634. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call 1-800-487-1634. That's 1-800-487-1634.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
We've got the power.
Justice is better than racism.
Mr. Fuller, it looks as though we just got the news that the Supreme Court did make a ruling. This is in live time. They did rule that the Defense of Marriage Act was a key part of it was unconstitutional, declaring that same-sex couples who are legally married deserve equal rights to the benefits under federal law that go in all other married couples. I believe that's what it's saying. And it also, but it did not say that any state had the right, any state that wanted to deny marriage, did not want to accept gay, so-called gay marriage, had to accept it. Am I clear on that, Mr. Fuller?
Yes, I think.
Now this is coming down right now. They struck down the Defense of Marriage Act. That was an act set up to, I guess, and guess what? On the New York Times, guess who's, you're right. Guess who they're showing as a smiling face? Some black person, a black female.
For sure.
Right up
for
front.
Sure.
That's exactly what they're showing.
At.
Yeah.
All of this is aimed at non-white people. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having it. That's my opinion. It's the white supremacists have to make big moves now worldwide because the non-white people of the world are beginning to show that they want to be intelligent, they want to be they want to learn more, they want to do things different, they want to have a new social order, a better world for the most part. A lot of correct thinking non-white people throughout the entire planet. They want to do away with a lot of the chaos and whatnot. But now when you start tampering with people's sexuality, you can cause a whole lot of chaos.
Yes.
I mean, that's an opportunity for a lot of people who like to produce mischief.
Mr. Fuller,
So,
let me read it real
go right
quick
ahead.
to you so I can give clarification. It says the Supreme Court issued a pair of rulings Wednesday expanding gay rights. This is from the New York Times. Ruling unconstitutional a 1996 law denying federal benefits to legally married same-sex couples and clearing the way for California to legalize same-sex marriage. In the California case, the court ruled that opponents of same-sex marriage did not have standing to appeal a lower court ruling that overturned California's ban. The Supreme Court's ruling appears to remove legal obstacles to same-sex couples marrying in the state, but the court did not issue a broad ruling likely to affect other states. So basically what they said was in the state of California, you can do it, but it didn't have anything to do with the state of Ohio, the District of D.C. and other places. That's how that might be one reading on it. Others may see it as something else. Okay, Mr. Fuller, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, and as an addition to that, you might say that, well, anybody who is in the legal field now, that's a whole other field that's a real gold mine for confusion there, because after all, if you're a lawyer and you have confused signals in the law, that's a gold mine for a lawyer. And lawyers everywhere should rejoice at this ruling, from what I'm hearing right now, because it sounds like it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a whole lot of maybes.
Yeah,
and really, so that's tailor-made. I mean, I can see this armies of people going into court now talking about this, talking about that, talking about what the agenda was last Thursday, and this on and on and on.
Wow. It said the court is expected to rule Wednesday on a second case involving same-sex marriage. Whether California's ban on it is unconstitutional, decision on the defense of marriage does not, I want to repeat this, the decision on the defense of marriage does not alter any state laws governing whether same-sex couples can marry. It instead determines whether same-sex couples that are legally married in one state receive federal benefits that apply to heterosexual married couples. Okay, I think we've hit that enough. Mr. Fuller, let's go to your mailbag, or any questions, or is anything that you want to bring up, sir?
Well, last week we talked about, someone called in and they was talking about leadership, and I wasn't knocking leadership, and some suggestions were made about who should be supported as a leader. And under the compensatory logic that I have written about and that I follow, I'm duty-bound to say that anybody who wants to become a leader should just step forward and become a leader. Now, a leader has to have followers, so it's just a matter of how efficient a leader is at gathering followers. I'm not opposed to that, because I think some people might have gotten the idea that I was opposed to black people having leaders. No, definitely not. If you can become a leader, but then who is the official leader of black people as of this moment? And I'm saying the official leader of black people throughout this planet as of this moment are the white supremacists. They are my leaders. They're the ones who have the muscle to tell me what to do. They can make me do things. You know, now there might be some black person somewhere who will say, oh, well, I can make you do things too. But it's been my observation that black people who say that they are leaders, when they even try to get other black people to do things, they have to answer to the white supremacists. Because the white supremacists say it's not going to be one leader on this planet, and that leader is going to be white. So don't think that because you give yourself a title as a black person of being a leader of black people, I'm the leader of black people. And so if you think you're going to compete with me, even if you think you can put the muscle on black people and get them to follow you, you still have to answer to me. Because when you put the muscle on them, and I don't approve of the way you're using that muscle, then you're in trouble with me. And you dare get in my face, because you know what will happen to you. And this has been my observation all along. That's why I say there's no such thing as black leaders. They are black spokespersons. I'm a black spokesperson. Why? Because I speak. Any black person that speaks, that's all you have to do is just speak. And you are a black spokesperson. But a leader has to have muscle to back up what they say and break anybody's arm that doesn't like it, or break their necks if it comes to it. In other words, a leader has to have the muscle from somewhere. The muscle may come from the Creator. Many leaders, particularly religious leaders, say that's where their muscle is. They say they call on their Creator to settle all disputes. And I don't dispute that. I mean, because I'm not looking for an argument, a religious argument. So I say that, you know, if you get in trouble, your followers get in trouble and whatnot, you call on your Creator to straighten it all out, what you perceive to be your Creator by whatever name, then it's straightened out. Because after all, the Creator of this universe can straighten out anything. I wouldn't disagree with anybody on that. And if they are in tune with that Creator, I'm quite sure if they are in tune, that whatever they ask that Creator to do, the Creator will do it instantly. Probably. Depends on what type of arrangement that particular leader has and what type of arrangement, what type of understanding that particular leader has with the Creator. Because I've seen many people who say they have called on their Creator, and evidently they must not have been on excellent terms with their Creator, because the Creator didn't do what they asked the Creator to do. So that, but ultimately, whatever created all of us is our ultimate leader. But here on planetary Earth, the white supremacists have said, if you are a person that I have classified as non-white, I am your leader. And if you don't like it, I will prove to you that I am your leader by hurting you in all the different kind of ways that I can hurt people, and I got dozens and dozens and dozens of ways, which you well know. All of you black people know that I can hurt you anytime I want to. And a lot of you pray and all like that, but, your prayers are not answered. Haven't been answered so far when you get in trouble with me. So who is your real leader? Is it me, or is it somebody up in the sky or on the other side of the universe? It seems like you always obey me, because when you don't, I hurt you. And it seems like nobody's been able to stop me so far. Maybe down the road, somebody will. But so far, none of you black leaders have proven that whomever you call on is able to protect you from me. Protect you from other people, maybe, but not from me, the white supremacist. That's why I call myself a white supremacist. I'm supreme over one thing, and that's you.
So as a result, you are saying, how should we perceive this leader thing then?
Well, we just say any person who is in touch, whatever can free us from this, just do it. No one should try to stop you. No one should raise their voice to say, I don't believe you can do it. You don't know whether they can or not. So I just stand back. That's what I recommend in the code book and everything. Anybody who says, I'm going to take the leadership of black people, because all the rest of these people who have come before me don't know what they're doing. So I'm assuming leadership. Go right ahead, sir. Go right ahead, ma'am. I have no problem with you assuming leadership over me, because I definitely don't like the leader that I have now, which is the white supremacists. So take it, but you got to take it from them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's just a matter of how you're going to go about doing it. You're not taking it from me. I'm relinquishing mine. I'm not saying no. I'm not able. I'm just a victim. So if you can figure out a way to get them off of me, do it. Do it right now. I mean, I'll stand right back and watch you work out.
Wow. So then, as we go forward with this, Mr. Fuller, what can we expect? Because there's so much confusion right now going on. We've got about a minute left. There's so much confusion, Mr. Fuller. How do we work our way out of this confusion, if we can? And I know I've given you a minute to respond, but give us at least some beginning points, Mr. Fuller.
Everything is a matter of cause and effect. So what we need is something we have never even thought about having, is a counter-racist code. That's what I've tried to write in my book, that would apply to each individual person, because this is the way it's got to be done. That's what I was trying to say last week. Each individual person has to have a code, things that they do, things that they don't do. And we can erode the system of racism. I mean, in record time, we could take all the cement out of between those bricks, you might say, of the structure of racism. so that it would just collapse, simply because it doesn't have structure anymore, on account of we have eroded that structure by the way that we think, speak, and act on a daily basis. That's all that it really takes, because that's how it's put together.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller.
Thank you.